It was an ordinary day in the courtroom, with the sound of murmuring voices and shuffled papers filling the air. As the next case was called, a frail yet dignified figure slowly stood up from the defendant's seat. Victor Cueva, a 96-year-old man, shuffled toward the stand with a gentle, measured pace. His eyes reflected the weight of time and experience, yet his spirit remained unwavering. Stay with us as we dive into these gripping stories, uncovering the heart, humanity, and lessons behind each case. These are not just courtroom tales. They're glimpses into life's toughest choices and the justice that shapes them. Make sure to subscribe, like, and share so you never miss a moment of these extraordinary stories. Wishing you a joyful and peaceful day. Let's get started. Judge Caprio, seated high on the bench, greeted him with a warm, "Good morning, sir." The judge quickly explained the reason for Victor's appearance in court: a school zone violation for exceeding the speed limit. The charge was a serious one, but it seemed out of place when considering the elderly man standing before him. With a soft, steady voice, Victor responded, "I don't drive that fast, Judge. I'm 96 years old, and I drive slowly. I only drive when I have to." The room went silent as Judge Caprio listened carefully, his face softening with compassion. "Where were you going?" the judge asked. Victor replied, "I was taking my son to the doctors for blood work." The weight of his words was palpable as he continued, "He's handicapped. He has cancer, and I take him for his blood work every 2 weeks." The courtroom was still. Judge Caprio, known for his ability to connect with the people in front of him, smiled warmly. "You are a good man," he said, his voice full of admiration. "Here you are in your 90s still taking care of your family. That's what America is all about." Victor's eyes twinkled with a mix of pride and humility. "How old is your son?" Judge Caprio inquired further. "He's 63, Victor answered softly. "And you're still taking care of him?" Judge Caprio asked, his tone filled with respect. Victor nodded. "Yes, he needs me," he said simply. It was a reminder that love and duty never fade, even as the years pass. The judge looked over at Victor's son, who stood quietly in the background, watching his father. "Do you see that young man over there?" Victor gestured toward his son, a small chuckle escaping his lips. "That's my boy. And he tells me, 'Dad, when you're 90, you're going to be driving me around. You're setting a bad example for my kids.'" The courtroom chuckled lightly, but there was no mistaking the deep bond between father and son. As Victor recounted his story, Judge Caprio paused to reflect. He addressed the courtroom, his voice filled with a mix of admiration and gravity. This man represents something we don't often see in today's world: a lifelong commitment to family. At 96 years old, many would expect to be cared for themselves. But Victor here reminds us of a profound truth. Love doesn't retire. It doesn't weaken with age. It grows stronger, pushing us to do things others might see as impossible. The room seemed to hold its breath, everyone silently reflecting on the strength of Victor's character. "Listen, sir," Judge Caprio said, his voice sincere. "I wish you and your son the very best. I wish you good health. And for your case, it's dismissed." The room was filled with a sense of respect and admiration for Victor, whose commitment to his family and to his son was a testament to the power of love, no matter the years. As the judge spoke those final words, "God bless you," the courtroom fell into a reverent silence. Victor Cueva, a man of 96 years, left the courtroom that day not just as a defendant, but as a reminder to us all of the profound, unbreakable bond between a parent and their child. His story, a quiet yet powerful example of duty and love, resonated deeply with everyone who witnessed it. After hearing about the heartwarming bond between the 96-year-old father and his son, we now shift to a completely different case. A story of a young man in a desperate situation. His story will remind us that life can take unexpected turns, and sometimes The choices we make in those moments define who we are. It was a chilly afternoon in the courtroom. Judge Caprio was scanning the next case, a name catching his attention: Mark Benson. The courtroom buzzed as usual, with attorneys making small talk and defendants shifting nervously in their seats. But Mark seemed different. He wasn't just nervous. He was shaking, beads of sweat on his forehead. As he stood before the judge, he couldn't even make eye contact. Instead, he stared at the floor, his hands trembling. "Mr. Benson, you are charged with possession of illegal substances and reckless driving. What do you have to say for yourself?" Judge Caprio asked, his voice steady, yet hinting at a concern. Mark swallowed hard, his throat dry. He glanced up at the judge, but quickly looked away again. I didn't mean to break the law, Your Honor. I was just scared." Mark's voice cracked. Judge Caprio leaned forward, his interest piqued. "Scared of what, Mr. Benson?" Mark took a deep breath before speaking. His words rushed. "I was running from the police. I made a huge mistake, but I didn't know what else to do. I was driving my mom to the hospital. She was having an emergency." The courtroom fell silent, and Judge Caprio's eyes softened with empathy as he observed Mark's distress. This was not the usual case of reckless driving. There was something more here. What kind of emergency was it? The judge asked, his tone gentle. "She was having chest pains. I didn't know what was going on. She's been sick for a while, and I was terrified I'd lose her. I thought if I didn't drive fast, I'd never make it in time." Mark explained, his voice shaking with emotion. Judge Caprio remained silent for a moment, processing Mark's words. He could tell this wasn't a typical case of a young man trying to escape the law. No, this was a case of desperation, of a son trying to save his mother. "You broke the law, Mark. Speeding, running from the police, and possessing illegal substances. These are serious offenses. But your fear, your love for your mother, that's something I can understand. However," the judge continued, pausing for effect, "there's a bigger picture here. You were risking not only your life but the lives of others. Your fear clouded your judgment, and in doing so, you endangered not just yourself, but those around you." The room was tense as everyone waited for the judge's final decision. Mark's eyes were wide, his breath coming in short gasps. He had no idea what would happen next. Judge Caprio slowly stood up, walked around the bench, and looked directly at Mark. "Mark, I get it. You were scared. You made a rash decision in the heat of the moment. But the law exists for a reason. It's there to protect everyone. It's not just about what you think is best in the moment, but about making sure that we all stay safe, even when the stakes are high." Mark nodded, tears now streaming down his face. He had no excuses. He just wanted to be there for his mom. He just wanted to make sure she was okay. Judge Caprio sighed and then gave his verdict. "Mark Benson, I'm going to dismiss the charges today. You made a mistake, but it was driven by love and panic. However, let this be a lesson. In moments of crisis, it's essential to stay calm, think clearly, and make decisions that protect not just your loved ones, but everyone around you. That's what being responsible is about." Mark's face lit up with relief. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. He had expected the worst, but was given a second chance. A chance to learn and grow from this experience. In times of panic and fear, it's easy to make rash decisions. Mark's story is a reminder that love and fear can sometimes cloud our judgment, leading us to make mistakes. But true responsibility means thinking before acting, especially when lives are at stake. The law isn't just a set of rules. It's there to ensure safety for all, even when emotions are running high. Mark learned that in moments of crisis, slowing down, staying calm, and thinking clearly can be the difference between making a mistake and making the right decision. As Mark stood silently, overwhelmed by Judge Caprio's words, The judge turned to the courtroom and addressed everyone present. Fear is a powerful emotion. It can push us to act without thinking. But it's in those moments of fear that we must remind ourselves of our responsibilities. Mark's story teaches us that even when time feels like it's slipping away, taking a step back to think clearly can save not just one life, but many. His love for his mother is evident, but love paired with clarity and caution is what leads to true courage. The audience nodded in silent agreement, the weight of the lesson sinking in. Just as Mark Benson learned that panic and fear should never guide our decisions, we now move to another case that highlights the lengths people will go to for their loved ones. This time, it's not about age, but the overwhelming power of parental love. A love that led to a risky decision and brought Thomas Eldor into the courtroom. It was another typical morning at the courthouse. Judge Caprio sat at his desk, looking over his case files. The courtroom was buzzing with the usual chatter of attorneys and defendants. But as he flipped through the papers, one name caught his eye: Thomas Eldor. Thomas had been a regular at the courthouse for years, known for his run-ins with the law. Yet today, something about his appearance seemed different. There was an odd air of anxiety surrounding him as he took the stand. The room grew silent, and Judge Caprio raised an eyebrow, sensing something unusual was about to unfold. Eldor, you're charged with yet another violation. Speeding, reckless driving in a school zone. Again. Judge Caprio announced in a calm but firm voice. Thomas looked down at the floor, clearly nervous. But this time, there was a twist. He wasn't here to argue about the ticket. No, Thomas had a different story to tell. Your Honor, Thomas began, his voice trembling. I know I've made mistakes, but today I wasn't speeding out of carelessness. I was rushing to the hospital. My daughter, she was in labor. She had complications. I was trying to get there on time. The room grew quieter as the gravity of his words set in. A sense of empathy filled the air, and even the attorneys paused to listen. Thomas's eyes welled with tears as he spoke, telling the court how his daughter had been in and out of the hospital for weeks, fighting for her life and the life of her baby. I wasn't thinking about the speeding. I wasn't thinking about the law. All I could think about was getting to her, to be there for her, Thomas said, his voice cracking. Judge Caprio leaned forward, his eyes piercing through Thomas. For a moment, the room held its breath, waiting for his decision. It seemed like the judge was deep in thought, processing the depth of Thomas's story. After what felt like an eternity, Judge Caprio finally spoke. Thomas, I understand your panic. But the law is the law. Speeding in a school zone, no matter the reason, puts lives at risk. However, he paused. What you did shows your dedication as a father. That's something we don't see every day. You made a mistake, but it wasn't a malicious one. The room was still as the judge continued, his voice steady and resolute. Your actions today, though they broke the law, were driven by love and concern for your family. And that's something that speaks volumes about your character. I will dismiss the charges, but let this be a lesson. In life, we can sometimes be so consumed by emotions that we forget the bigger picture. The law exists for a reason, to protect us all. The courtroom let out a collective sigh of relief. Thomas, overwhelmed with gratitude, tried to compose himself as Judge Caprio's words rang in his ears. You are dismissed, Eldor. But remember next time, slow down. There's more than one life at stake. In moments of extreme stress and panic, it's easy to make hasty decisions. But true wisdom lies in recognizing the importance of balance between love and responsibility, urgency and caution. Even when we act out of the best intentions, we must remember that the rules are in place to protect everyone. And, sometimes, slowing down is the best way forward. After seeing Judge Caprio, show kindness and wisdom in the previous case, we now move to another situation where a good-hearted person made a mistake. One that, like the last story, was born out of the desire to help someone else. Let's see how Judge Caprio handles this next case and what lesson it teaches us. In this case, a man named Michael is standing before Judge Caprio, charged with stealing a bike. The courtroom was busy, as usual. Judge Caprio sat at his desk, flipping through his case files. It was a bright, sunny morning, and the room was full of people waiting for their cases to be heard. One by one, people came up to the stand, explaining why they were there. But then, the next person called up was a man named Michael. As Michael walked up to the front, Judge Caprio looked at him. Michael looked nervous. His hands were shaking, and his face was pale. It was clear that something was troubling him. "Michael," said Judge Caprio, "you've been charged with stealing a bike from a store. How do you plead?" Michael took a deep breath. He looked at the judge, and then looked down at the ground. After a moment, he said quietly, "I'm guilty, but it wasn't my idea. I was just trying to help my little brother." The judge raised an eyebrow. "Help your little brother? What do you mean?" Michael explained that his little brother, Jake, had been saving up for months to buy a new bike. But one day, Jake's bike was stolen. He was heartbroken. Michael, feeling sorry for him, decided to take matters into his own hands. He saw a bike at a store that was just like the one his brother had wanted, so he decided to steal it to replace the one that was gone. "I thought I was helping him," Michael said, his voice cracking, "but I never thought it would go so wrong." Judge Caprio listened carefully. The courtroom was quiet. Everyone could see that Michael didn't mean to do anything bad. He was just trying to help his brother, but he made a huge mistake by breaking the law. After a long pause, Judge Caprio spoke. "Michael, I understand why you did it. You wanted to make your brother happy, but stealing is never the right way to solve a problem. No matter how much we want to help someone, breaking the law only leads to trouble." Michael nodded. His eyes filled with guilt. "However," Judge Caprio continued, "you didn't steal the bike out of greed or for yourself. You made a mistake out of love for your brother, and that shows that you have a good heart. But now, it's important for you to learn that there are better ways to help people than breaking the law." The judge paused and then gave his decision. "Michael, I am going to let you go this time. But let this be a lesson. If you ever want to help someone, there are always better choices than breaking the law. You can always talk to people, ask for help, or find a way that doesn't involve stealing." Michael looked up, relieved, but also thoughtful. "Thank you, Your Honor," he whispered, still feeling ashamed but understanding the lesson. Sometimes we make mistakes because we want to help others. But it's important to remember that there are always better, smarter ways to solve problems. Breaking the law will never lead to a good outcome. No matter how good our intentions are, helping others is important. But it's always best to do it the right way. As we've seen today, the courtroom isn't just a place where laws are enforced. It's a place where humanity, compassion, and justice intersect. From the unwavering dedication of a 96-year-old father to the desperate actions of a young man trying to save his mother, these stories remind us of the profound lessons life offers. They teach us about love, responsibility, and the importance of staying grounded even in the face of adversity. Each case is a reflection of the choices we make and the consequences that follow. Judge Caprio's wisdom reminds us that while the law is firm, understanding and empathy have a place in every judgment. If these stories moved you, inspired you, or gave you something to think about, we invite you to be a part of our journey. Subscribe to our channel for more powerful courtroom moments and lessons that resonate beyond the courtroom walls. Don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you for watching. And remember, life, like justice, is about balance. Stay kind, stay responsible, and always strive to do what's right. Until next time, take care, and we'll see you in the next story.